There are gestures we believe to be silent, choices we think are insignificant, yet they leave an echo in the soul that the world does not perceive. Sometimes it is not the noise of sin that destroys us, but its invisible weight. It is not an outward clamor, but an inner whisper, constant, relentless, that nothing seems able to quiet. That feeling of distance from oneself, that emptiness after a stolen pleasure, it is often there that everything begins. It is not a matter of rules, but of light, a light that fades slowly, without us realizing it. It is not simply about what we do, but about what it makes of us. Adultery, relationships outside of marriage, they are not just one religious prohibition among others. They are a rupture, a spiritual disorder. It is not a single act, but a sequence. And every lingering glance, every overly intimate message, every secret thought nurtured, all of this prepares the ground. It is one more step, sometimes unconscious, towards a fall we only recognize once we have reached the bottom. In this age where everything is accelerating, where connections are instant but shallow, intimacy has been stripped of its depth. What the world calls freedom often turns out to be a chain, one you only feel after the fact. The heart slowly grows veiled, dulled by repetition. We think we're in control. We think we're clear-sighted, but the soul knows. And each time we drift from its true nature, it quietly recoils. Islam does not only say, do not commit, it says, do not even come near, because the approach itself is already a fracture, a tiny crack through which poison seeps in. This is the kind of wisdom that overturns modern logic. Today, flirting is celebrated as a game. Closeness is trivialized as a right. Yet, in authentic spirituality, every step toward what is forbidden is a step away from what elevates us. And what if it's not about law, but about connection? Because it is the connection with Allah that weakens. And when that bond becomes fragile, everything falters. Prayer feels heavy. Serenity fades. The inner light grows harder to reach. No, it is not just a mistake. It is a rupture, a tear in the sacred fabric of the relationship with the divine. And yet, this is not a condemnation. It is a warning, a gentle alarm, but one that will not be silenced. A reminder that you are worth more than what you do in secret, that you are more precious than your mistakes. It is not sin that chains you. It is the belief that you can no longer break free. As long as you hold on to that belief, you remain stuck in the fall. History teaches us that even the most noble have stumbled. It is not the fault itself that destroys. It is the refusal to return. There is nobility in turning back. There is greatness in silent tears. Every prayer whispered with a broken heart is worth more than 1,000 hollow gestures. True courage is to face your own ugliness without running away, and to say to Allah, take me back, even like this. And that is where awakening begins, not in perfection, not in control, but in vulnerability offered, in the very crack that sin has opened, through which divine light pours if only we allow it. You may have fallen. You may have fallen many times, and perhaps you think you are no longer worthy. But what you feel now, this discomfort, this ache deep within, is not shame. It is a call, a disguised mercy, a breath from above whispering to you, you are not alone. You are not forsaken. You can come back. So, if your eyes have seen what they should not have seen, if your hands have touched what they should never have brushed, if your heart has clung to what was never permitted, know this: sincere repentance, deep, painful, but true, is the antidote your soul has been yearning for all along. Allah loves those who fall and then rise again, not once, not twice, but as many times as it takes. For every return is an act of love, and every tear shed in secret is a precious pearl lifted up by the angels. You are not tainted, you are wounded, and wounds can heal, but they must first be acknowledged. They must be exposed to the light, not to the crowd, to Allah alone. This is not moralizing, it is deliverance. And if today you make only one decision, let it be this: move forward, even if crawling, even if clothed in shame. For as long as you move toward Him, He will come toward you. And that step, fragile as it may be, could very well be the beginning of your healing. You think you are in love. You are convinced it is sincere. And yet, when you are alone, there is a void that this relationship cannot fill. A missing piece, a tension that lingers despite the fleeting moments of stolen happiness. It is not that your feelings are false. It is that your experience is incomplete. Something essential is missing, not passion, blessing. Today, desire's fire is too often mistaken for love's light. We throw ourselves into stories without roots, into bonds without foundations, and when the fire dies out, only ashes remain. How many young hearts cling, give themselves away, wear themselves thin, and end up empty? How many think they are building when in truth they are quietly collapsing inside? We call it experimenting, discovering, living. But the soul, it knows the difference between what uplifts and what slowly destroys. In the spiritual universe of Islam, love is not a game. It is sacred. It is meant to be sealed in a covenant that goes beyond the mere bond between two hearts. Marriage is not a formality. It is a spiritual armor, an invisible shield that protects the soul, the heart, the body. Without this armor, love becomes vulnerable. And in a world without a compass, that vulnerability often ends in wounds. We have been taught to associate love with intensity, with adrenaline, with thrill. We have forgotten that in Islam, true love begins with peace. It does not tear you apart, it grounds you. It does not enslave you, it frees you. It does not push you into hiding, it lifts you into the light. Any relationship lived in secrecy and the fear of being exposed is not blessed. It is stolen. And everything stolen eventually costs far more than what we thought we had gained. But this is not simply a matter of haram or halal. It is subtler than that. It is about whether you love yourself enough to wait for what your soul truly deserves. It is about whether you believe enough in your own honor to refuse to trade it away for a fleeting illusion. Because yes, sometimes what we call love is nothing more than a response to emptiness, an emotional bandage over a wound we refuse to face. And then comes the aftermath. When the relationship ends, when the other walks away, when attachment collapses, that is when the pain shows its true face. It is not only the sadness of separation, it is the shame of having given yourself without spiritual protection. It is the loss of direction, the loss of self. That moment when you realize that what you have offered you cannot take back, and this wound, so many carry it without ever daring to name it. But it is never too late. Chastity is not the privilege of those who have never fallen. It is for those who choose to begin again. It is not a label. It is a direction, a choice you can make even after you have stumbled. For in Islam, purity is not measured by your past, but by your present intention. And every decision to guard yourself from this moment on is a quiet rebuilding of your dignity. Those who fall are not weak, they are human. But those who remain on the ground while the hand of Allah is extended, those are the ones who deny themselves the highest elevation. Allah does not despise those who have loved without boundaries. He does not exclude those who have confused attraction with commitment. He closes the door to no one. He waits. He waits for us to understand, to recognize, to return. And if you think that no one understands what you feel, that you are alone in your pain, know that this is not true. There are thousands of broken hearts silently weeping for having trusted too quickly, given too soon, loved without halal. And there is infinite mercy for all who wish to reclaim their light. The greatest lie is believing that you are defined by your mistakes. Number. You are defined by your capacity to change course, and that capacity, no one can take it from you, not even yourself. So, if you are still in this relationship, ask yourself just one question. Does this person help you draw closer to your Creator? Does this bond remind you of your worth or pull you away from it? And if you have already left this bond, do not look back with bitterness. Look forward. Turn the fall into a springboard. Turn the pain into a reminder. And walk, head held high, toward a love that is truer, stronger, purer. For halal love is not a naive dream. It is a courageous choice, a choice that often begins with renunciation. But this renunciation, Allah rewards with a peace that nothing illicit could ever give you. And what if your struggle was not a burden, but a quiet call toward something deeper? What if what you feel, instead of defining you, is the trial through which your soul is revealed? There are truths we avoid, not because they are false, but because they hurt, not others, ourselves. They reflect our contradictions, our inner struggles, what we dare not even name in the most sincere prayers. And yet, it is here that the light begins. Here, where we thought there would only be rejection, silence, or anger. In the sacred vision of Islam, every human being is born with a dignity that nothing can take away. Neither their sins, nor their inclinations, nor the judgment of others. This dignity does not come from what we feel, but from what we choose to do with those feelings. For what you feel does not condemn you. It is a starting point, not a sentence. The true question is not attraction, but direction. Where are you going with what you feel? What do you choose to nurture? Which voice do you decide to listen to amid the inner turmoil? This reminder does not come to hurt. It does not come to point fingers. It comes to ask a fundamental question. What does it mean to align yourself with what Allah has willed for us? Away from the noise of debates, away from slogans, even away from easy judgments, there exists an inner space where the soul seeks its truth. And this truth does not need validation from the world. It only needs to be heard by you. The story of the people of Lut in the Quran is not a weapon. It is a mirror, not a tool for hate, but a reminder of a spiritual drift, that of having diverted a sacred energy from its original purpose. For in divine wisdom, the union of man and woman is not simply biological, it is symbolic. It is the expression of balance, complementarity, and embodied mercy. When this balance is broken, it is not merely social norms that falter. It is inner peace that is disturbed. But take care. Islam does not expel. It does not shut doors. It never closes the path to the seeker. It does not reject souls. It redirects actions, and that changes everything. You can be attracted to the same sex and still be loved by Allah. You can carry this trial and be spiritually elevated above those who have never faced this struggle. For what you carry, if fought with sincerity, becomes a source of invisible light, a secret between you and your Creator, a noble struggle that is worth more than an easy life. You need to know this. Your feelings do not make you a lost soul. It is your choice to surrender to them or to master them that shapes your path. Spirituality is not a quest for emotional perfection. It is a fidelity to a direction despite the storms. And sometimes those who walk against the wind are more beloved than those who sleep in comfort. Many suffer in silence, brothers, sisters, young men and women. Some pray with a torn heart, others cry over their attractions, and still others fight every day without speaking to anyone. And you know what? Allah knows. He knows what you have never spoken. He sees your restrained tears. He hears the prayers you whisper without words. And He is closer to you than all those who have judged, labeled, or ignored you. So, if you are living through this trial, know that it can be a bridge toward Him. It is not a punishment. It may, on the contrary, be proof that you are capable of a rare intensity of jihad al-nafs, a struggle that many will never see but which will weigh heavily on your scale if you live it with clarity and faith. It is not a burden if you entrust it to the One who lightens souls. And to those who watch from afar, who have never faced this trial, do not judge. You do not know the cost of carrying inner tension day and night. The true believer does not crush. He understands. He does not improvise as a guide on what he has not lived. And true courage is not condemning. It is loving without approving, supporting without compromising, praying for another without crushing them under blame. Islam is a living reminder that everyone has a chance. As long as the breath is there, as long as the heart beats, a return is possible. Even from the darkest corners of the heart, and sometimes the souls the world calls lost, are the very ones Allah gazes upon with the greatest tenderness, because they have cried in silence, because they have walked in the shadows, but toward the light. You must not choose between your identity and your faith. You must choose the truth that heals your soul, even if it demands sacrifice, even if it requires saying no to a part of yourself, because that part is not all that you are. And Allah created you with a capacity far greater than your desires. He created you to resist, to transcend, to rise. So do not run, do not deceive yourself, and above all, do not despair. If you move toward Him, even on your knees, even in tears, even with confusion in your heart, He awaits you, and His welcome is sweeter than all the acceptances you could ever seek elsewhere. It all begins with so little, a moment, a glance, a barely noticeable detail that finds a crack within you. It is neither dirty, nor blatant, nor even fully conscious, but it is there, subtle, insistent, deep. You didn't invite it, yet it settles in. It is not yet an act, it is not yet a word, but your heart has already begun to stir. This is the nature of carnal desire. It does not knock at the door, it slips through the cracks, and this force, this fire, this inner current we call shahwa, must not be reduced to mere temptation. It is energy, a force granted by Allah for a noble, sacred, sublime purpose. It is not a flaw, but like all forces, it can illuminate or burn, it can nourish or consume. Everything depends on its direction. In a world saturated with images, suggestions, empty promises, desire is no longer a natural impulse. It has become a weapon. It is stimulated, maintained, manufactured. Social media, music videos, advertisements, endless feeds, everything invites you to consume. Not just objects, but bodies, fantasies, emotions. We no longer look, we swallow. We no longer feel, we project. And gradually the soul becomes intoxicated, never truly satisfied. The gaze has become a constant opening, but every glance cast where it should not be leaves a trace. Every image retained in memory, every scene revisited in thought, every sensation replayed. All of this forges an invisible chain. It makes no noise, yet it binds. It leaves no mark on the skin, but it imprints the soul. The prophet said that the eyes commit their share of adultery. No gesture is needed, no word. The fire begins in the eyes, and it can burn everything inside. And this fire, when nurtured outside its proper bounds, becomes a slow trial. It tires the heart. It weighs down the soul. You may smile, pray, even fast, but something remains unsettled because this energy is not aligned. You feed it without elevating it. You maintain it without channeling it. And the heart, over time, becomes lukewarm in dhikr, unstable in prayer, suffocated in solitude. But it is not irreversible. It is not inevitable. It is not a sin in itself to feel desire. The real problem is letting this energy govern your life without a higher direction. It is believing that you cannot live without satisfying it. It is becoming dependent on what you are meant to master. The jihad against shahwa is one of the quietest, yet most rewarding. It is a struggle that no one sees, that no one applauds, that no one even guesses. And yet, it is often there that the greatest spiritual victories are born. To refuse a thought, to close the eyes, to turn off a screen, to leave an ambiguous conversation, to move away from a source of inner disturbance. These are gestures known only to Allah and yourself, yet they are the ones the angels record with the utmost care. Desire, within the bounds of halal, becomes a source of peace, of balance, of rahmah. It is no longer a force against you, but a force within you. But when left free without awareness, it becomes Iblis's trick, a constant distraction, a subtle imbalance, an attachment to shadows. You think you love, you only desire. You think you live, you are merely restless, and you only realize it when the light departs from your heart. This fire is fought, not with self-hatred, but with discipline, with fasting, with night vigils, with inner silence, with supplications, with sincere tears in the dark, and above all, with uncompromising clarity. It is not what I feel that defines me. It is what I choose to nurture. The scholars speak of tazkiyah, of inner purification. It is not a technique. It is a way of life. It is refusing to be ruled by one's impulses. It is relearning to master your gaze, your thoughts, even your breath. It is saying no to oneself, not out of repression, but out of love for something higher. And this is true nobility, not giving in to what the world justifies, but resisting for what the soul silently demands, peace. And if you have fallen 1,000 times, know this: you can still return 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Allah loves those who struggle. He loves those who fall but rise again with sincerity. He loves those who dare to say, "Ya Rabbi, I cannot do this alone." That cry is already a victory. It is proof that the heart is still alive. Do not let shahwa make you believe you are weak. It is there to reveal your strength. And each time you restrain it, each time you avert your gaze, each time you purify your intention, a light is born, invisible but real. And this light is what will carry you, protect you, and elevate you. So, even if no one sees your struggle, even if everything pushes you to give in, even if you have little strength, hold firm, because your resistance is far more valuable in Allah's eyes than any visible achievement. And perhaps a single averted glance today will be the source of immense mercy tomorrow. You think it is nothing. Just a moment, a pulse, a reflex in solitude, a screen lit in the dark. And yet, this nothing has the power to extinguish lights within you that you didn't even know were burning. This nothing becomes a slow poison, tasteless, silent, odorless. Yet it seeps, digs, wears away until it extinguishes you from the inside, piece by piece. The truth is, you are not simply looking at an image. You are abandoning a piece of your soul to something that will never love you in return. Pornography is not just a sin of the eyes. It is a war against your dignity. It turns the sacred gaze into an empty one. It takes what God has made noble, the desire, the beauty, intimacy, and perverts it. It teaches you to consume instead of love, to fantasize instead of connect, to desire without commitment. And worse, it rewires your brain, your heart, your perception of others, your view of yourself. At first it seems harmless. You are curious. You click. You close it immediately. You start again. And little by little the trap closes. What disgusted you yesterday becomes tolerable today. What once seemed filthy becomes normal. And the heart? It grows heavy. Salat loses its sweetness. Dicker becomes mechanical. Shame overwhelms you, yet you can't stop. You move from the screen to regret, from regret to relapse. A cycle, a gear, a prison you carry everywhere, even when everything around you is dark. But how do you explain it to others? How do you speak of a harm no one sees? You do not bleed, you do not scream, and yet you suffer in silence. Because no one told you that this addiction, even though invisible, is one of the most destructive to your connection with Allah. You want to pray, but you dare not. You want to ask for forgiveness, but you think you are no longer worthy. And that, precisely, is where the trap becomes spiritual. For Shaitan does not only want you to fall, he wants to make you believe that you can no longer rise. Pornography is not an isolated mistake. It is a perverse training. It desensitizes your heart. It makes reality dull. It destabilizes your future marriage. It makes you demanding where you should be grateful. It pushes you to compare, to judge, to desire what has never existed in real life. And all for what? A few seconds of pleasure, followed by a void even deeper than before. But you can break this cycle, not in a day, not without pain, but with clarity, discipline, and faith. First, by acknowledging that this is not merely a sin, it is a suffering. What you feed with your gaze, you starve your heart. What you think relieves you, you prolong your own misery. True healing begins there, in honesty, in saying, I am no longer in control. I need help. I need God. The prophet spoke of those who will have eyes but will be blind. And isn't that exactly what pornography does? It robs you of the ability to see what is pure, to see modesty, tenderness, real beauty. It makes you incapable of loving in a healthy way, because you seek in reality an intensity that was fabricated in unreality. But the truth is, the heart does not desire intensity. It desires peace. It desires depth. It desires a love that heals it, not one that tears it apart further. And you know what? Even if you have fallen 100 times, the door is still open. Because Islam does not only judge actions, it looks at intentions. It values effort. It rewards every act of resistance, every tear, every prayer offered with shame but with hope. You do not need to be perfect to return to Allah. You just need to be sincere. There are keys: fasting, which restrains the inner fire; dhikr, which calms the mind; nightly supplications, which mend broken pieces. There are also concrete measures: uninstalling apps, distancing yourself, confiding in a trusted brother or sister, breaking the cycle by changing your environment. It is not easy, but it is possible. And every step toward healing is a victory that even the angels celebrate. You must understand, you are not only fighting to stop looking, you are fighting to reclaim your heart, to restore the value of your gaze, to preserve the intimacy of your future marriage. You are fighting so that your soul becomes once again a space welcoming divine light. And if you relapse again, do not stop. Do not let despair be your final act. Keep knocking at the door. For Allah loves those who return, those who do not pretend to be strong, but who hope despite their weakness. That is true strength. So lift your eyes, turn off the screens, and light up your heart. The battle begins there, in silence, in sincerity, in the refusal to remain enslaved. You are greater than this chain. You are purer than you think. And you are always, always capable of returning. There are boundaries that even the most lost souls hesitate to cross, not because they know the rules, but because something deeply buried within them silently screams, no. It is not social fear, nor a mere moral standard. It is an echo of the fitra, the innate nature God engraved in the human heart. Incest does not merely violate the law. It devastates the very structure of what a human being is meant to protect, the family sanctuary. Where trust should reign, only vertigo remains. Where pure love should flow, only betrayal spreads in silence generation after generation. Islam did not wait for complaints or scandals to address this. It set clear, immutable, absolute boundaries. Allah revealed in Surah An-Nisa a clear list of people with whom any intimate union is forbidden. These are not just names on a sacred parchment. They are the supporting pillars of a healthy home. The family bond is a sacred trust, and when this trust is betrayed, it is not just a sin, it is destruction. Yet, despite its severity, the subject is often left unspoken, out of embarrassment, out of fear, out of shame. People prefer to look away rather than open the wounds. But in the Islamic spiritual tradition, healing never begins with forgetting. Healing begins with light, and sometimes that light is harsh, but it is necessary. What is hidden in darkness rots. What is exposed to the truth begins to breathe. Incest is not limited to a single act. It is a fracture, a wound engraved in the body and the soul. And too often, victims carry not only the weight of trauma, they bear the burden of silence. They doubt. They feel guilty. They wonder if their pain is legitimate. To them, it must be said clearly without hesitation, you did not sin. You did not do wrong. You are not dirty. You are wounded. And Allah is closest to those whom no one defends. He is the one who sees the unseen, who hears the tears that no one has wiped. He is the one who surrounds broken hearts with His presence, even when everyone else turns away. In Surah Al-Hadid, Allah says, "We are closer to man than his jugular vein." This verse is not poetry, it is a promise. For you who were betrayed in the very place where you should have been safe, for you who carry a pain that no one dared to name, you are not forgotten. You are not invisible. What happened to you does not define you. What you choose now, however, can change everything. And if you are on the other side, if you are the one who transgressed, hear this. There is a path to forgiveness, but this path is harsh. It does not pass through mere regret. It begins with the complete cessation of wrongdoing, with sincere, burning, humbled repentance. But that is not all. For a sin this grave, tawbah, repentance, is not enough if there is no repair. Islam is not a religion of words alone. It demands justice. And sometimes human justice is the first step toward divine forgiveness, not to expose, but to repair, not to humiliate, but to restore what you have broken. This reminder is a cry in a night of silence. It disturbs, it shakes, but it is necessary, because there are pains that can no longer be buried, realities that can no longer be suffocated by slogans of outward piety. And because incest, even when hidden, produces damage that poisons generations. The unspoken words, the inherited shame, the stifled silences. This is where the invisible wounds of an entire ummah lie. And this is where the reminder must enter, like a light piercing even the darkest corners. But we must also remember, Islam has never been a religion of rejection. It is a religion of reform, even for the gravest sins. And reform begins with acknowledgement, with humility, with breaking free from pride. He who has sinned but comes to Allah with a sincere heart can still be raised, but he must walk in truth, face the consequences, submit not only to divine law, but also to what that law demands of repair, protection, and transformation. To the victims, know this: every tear you have not shed, Allah counts it. Every sleepless night, He envelops with His knowledge. And even if you have lost faith in humans, do not abandon the faith you can still have in your Lord. He does not betray, He does not lie, He does not minimize your pain, and He can draw from your trial a strength that no one will ever be able to take from you. This is not a reminder to condemn, it is a reminder to liberate, to break the chains that have been placed on children, on young people, on adults, marked for life. Islam came to speak the truth, even when it disturbs. And that truth is that certain boundaries once crossed call for a spiritual and human response. Not vengeance, but justice. Not hatred, but reconstruction. And if today you hear these words with a heavy heart, with tears in your eyes or a lump in your throat, then know this: it is not a coincidence. It may be a call, a starting point, a breath in a long suffocation. It is not you who is broken. It is the silence that must be broken. There comes a moment when you don't even feel that you are losing something. You give, you smile, you play the role, but inside it is silence. Not the silence of peace, the silence of emptiness. You are not insensitive, you are exhausted. You are not indifferent, you are disconnected. Because your body is there, exposed, offered, used, but your soul no longer follows. It stayed behind exactly where you believed your body had more value than your light. Prostitution does not always begin on the streets. Sometimes it is born in the way we look at ourselves, in the insidious belief that one must seduce to exist, in the idea that one can sell a part of oneself without touching one's being, in the illusion that others' desire will fill the emptiness we carry in silence. And in our time, where image is a commodity, where attention is currency, this exchange of intimacy becomes almost ordinary. We sell without speaking, we buy without knowing, and together we damage ourselves without even stopping. But Islam came to remind us that your body is not a product, it is a trust, a precious amana entrusted to you by Allah. It does not belong to you to the point of being bartered. It is sacred. It was created to worship, to love with modesty, to be respected. When you put it at the service of an unhealthy gaze, when you turn it into a showcase, a tool of power or seduction, you do not gain, you lose yourself. And it is not always a question of money. Sometimes it is in search of love, of approval, of visibility. It is the girl posting just a little suggestive photo, thinking that a like equals a sincere look. It is the boy relying on his appearance to mask his insecurity. It is the influencer dressing to provoke, because she was taught that this is how you succeed. And deep down, all are seeking the same thing: to be seen, to be loved, to be chosen. But love bought with the body never lasts. It hurts, it burns, and it abandons. Exposing the body is not only a matter of modesty, it is a matter of belief. It is believing that value comes from the outside, that the soul has no radiance without the skin being showcased. It is ignoring that true beauty does not seek to be shown. It seeks to be protected. The prophet spoke of a time when women would be clothed yet naked, and it was not a threat. It was a sadness, a warning. He knew what it would mean. Hearts searching for light yet trapped in the gaze of others. But there is a way out. There is always a return, because even she who has sold her body can be honored by Allah. Even he who has turned his flesh into a trade can regain his nobility. The prophetic story shows us this: a woman with a sinful past who simply gave water to a thirsty dog had all her sins erased. Why? Not for the act alone, but because in that moment her heart was sincere, broken, true. And Allah responded to that sincerity. You are not defined by your past. You are defined by what you do now with that past. And if you carry a secret shame, if you live off what you despise in yourself, if you have become used to offering your body while your soul screams in silence, know this: you can change. You can stop selling what cannot be sold. You can reclaim your worth, not in the eyes that judge you, but in the one who created you with love. And if you have fallen into this trap to survive, to escape, to forget, then do not sink any deeper. You are not condemned to stay there. You are free. You can rise again, and you are not alone. The gaze of Allah is never filled with disgust. It is filled with mercy. He awaits your return. He awaits you to say, enough. I am worth more than this. And at that moment, even if everything around you says otherwise, you become noble again. You become alive again. This era has lied to you. It told you that your body is your only capital, but Islam tells you that your heart is your treasure, that your modesty is your crown, that your dignity cannot be bought. You do not need to seduce to be loved. You need to be true to be saved. And if you hesitate to return, remember that every step toward the light, even fragile, even uncertain, even late, is celebrated. It is not the fall that destroys you. It is the idea that you can never rise again. Allah loves repentant hearts. He loves those who cry in secret, those who decide even one evening, even tired, to say, I am coming back. This was not a reminder meant to scare. It was a difficult truth, but necessary. These 7 wounds are not only sins to avoid, they are deep calls, spiritual alarms. And if you feel something right now, a discomfort, an emotion, a disturbance, then this reminder has touched you. It is not shame, it is awareness. And this awareness is the beginning of healing. No one is perfect, but everyone can return. And you too today can say, I am changing. So tell me in the comments, what is the first thing you want to let go of to draw closer to your Creator? This simple commitment could be the tipping point. Share this video if it awakened you. Don't keep it to yourself. It might be the light someone has been waiting for a long time. And above all, do not extinguish yourself. Return to the light. It is waiting for you.